Is it about the Cardinals deploying resources? Sure. This is a business. This is also this man's real last bite at the apple. It's his last opt-out. He's got 5 years and 144. I think everybody in that spot would want more money at minimum. And if he is this great guy that wants no more money or no more years, I love the fact that he's actually pushing the Cardinals. Show me, because there's some teams out there that are going to pay Nolan Arenado, even though he's a little older. The Mets throw money at everybody, right? I don't know Dodgers situation with Justin Turner, but I do think he could get a similar deal. Now, does he get tons more? I mean, he's older, but this man also has been here for 2 years. So after 2 years of playing for the Cardinals, you're still asking the organization to prove it to you? I'm not saying he's leaving. I don't think that's a great sign, though.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I could also see someone, you got an agent, and the agent said, let's go over a few things, and you just want to take your time with it, which is actually what Mo said. Yeah. So if he opts out, then I'll wear it. I'm not saying I never guaranteed it. I've asked him about it, and I've always gotten the sense that he likes it here, he's comfortable here, and he thinks this team has a chance to win, and that he'll be staying. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to take your opportunity to re-examine everything and talk to some people. Sure. So I still think, I never guaranteed anything. I still believe he's not going to opt out. Now, if he does, I'll be really surprised, and I'll be glad to wear it. But as I put on Twitter, we're going to need one person who will be the face of our anger, and it's going to just put him up there like a piñata so we can all take wax at it and feel better about ourselves. And I just think it should be Charlie.
It's always Charlie or Seth.
That's fair.
That's fair.
You would do it for St. Louis?
I'll wear this one right here. And again, maybe he's coming back. Yeah, he probably is. I agree with you. I just don't think it's a great sign when the man that's been here for 2 years and really wants to win, and last year you were a wild card. This year he said, look, I don't want to be the wild card. He said this flat out around the trade deadline. A lot of people, me included, interpreted that as, hey, Mo, go get some help to win the division. To Mo's credit, they did. They went out there. They made the trade. They got Jordan Montgomery. They got Jose Quintana. They did win the division. Now, these days, you probably have to shoot higher for that top 2 seeds if you want to really have some certainty to get at least a 5-game series. Yeah. So, look, Mo and the Cardinals, they were more aggressive at the trade deadline than they've been in several years. But, look, you're also looking at payroll. And I know that the Cardinals had a better record than some of these teams like the Phillies and the Padres, but a lot of these teams do spend more. And I think the Cardinals could spend more or spend smarter. And I think that's what Nolan Arenado wants to see.
I'll be honest with you. When they made those moves, in hindsight, I didn't think they did enough. Now, those guys pitched so much better than I thought they would. Nothing against Montgomery Quintana. I just didn't think that was going to be the difference maker stuff that would put him in a better position. And boy, was I wrong about that.
We also have a guy who, look, I love Nolan Arenado, but this is a smart dude, and he's a businessman. And remember, he signed a huge deal with the Rockies. And then after a couple years there, they weren't winning, and he basically, through the media, leveraged his way out of there. Yeah. So he could do that again. I'm not saying he's going to, but this is a dude who thinks about the big picture. He thinks about money. He thinks about winning. He thinks about all those things, and I think that's a good sign. Look, I hope the end goal of this is that Nolan Arenado stays, and it kicks the Cardinals in the ass to actually shoot higher than let's win 89 games every year and see what happens.
I got you on that. So many best fans in baseball, sheeple, think Nolan is an automatic sign because, quote, he loves it here. Maybe so, but that only goes so far. Take way more than T-Rav's crap-thin pizza and Clydesdales and curtain calls from a knowledgeable fan base. He wants to win. Throwing away $17 million on a has-been pitcher isn't helping persuade him either. The FO is more messed up than we ever thought. That's front office, I think. That was Sharon. She riled up.
Sharon's
crazy.
She's riled up. She's riled up today. She's wrestling Gators down there.
Wow.
He does really love it here. That doesn't mean he's going to stay. I never said that it would. But it's not fake.
Toasted ravioli
but
here.
It's not fake that he does really love it here. But Charlie's right. He's looking at things from the angle of A, business, and B, what are we going to do to win? Let's not forget that he is buddies with Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's going to be here. And the fact that they got bounced from the postseason Because the middle of the order didn't hit. It wasn't like all these other flaws.
Yeah, he did.
Like if those guys would have hit, they might still be in it. So, look, can the Cardinals be better? They got a lot of decisions to make. And I'm sure it was a goose to the organization make those moves, which is a good thing. Again, I think he's coming back. If he doesn't, I'll wear it.
And I would just like to say this. I'm not that smart, and I'm not that good at baseball. But if I was Nolan Arenado, I'm really not good at any sport. If I was Nolan Arenado, I would 100% opt out. At minimum, to get a better deal with the Cardinals.
Well, that's what Sanderson, who's a very smart guy, he called in
100%.
yesterday. Jimmy and I were talking about him this morning. Like you, Sanderson. I've been saying this for months. Why put an opt-out clause if you aren't going to use it? Use the damn thing.
For leverage.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
For leverage.
The net revenue loss of Nolan leaving far outweighs any amount of money the Cards would save by not meeting his demands. It would be insane if the Cardinals didn't give him everything he needs, Jackie boy.
Okay.
All right.
I'm with that. And so someone chirped me on Twitter about this. So I said on this show, if I were the Cardinals, part of it is I like Kisner. Catcher would not be the number one priority. Mo said, we're getting a catcher. He didn't say to replace Kisner per se, but he did say, we like Kisner had a good season. We need more, which I think is a fair assessment. All I said was, I'd keep Kisner. I'd get a lefty bat catcher with a defensive pedigree, if you could find it, if it's available. And then I would put the resources elsewhere. Like, to me, the number one priority of this team is to get a big bopper bat for the middle of the lineup. I'm not talking about a piece. I'm not Jock Peterson. I'm talking about a legitimate all-star bat, which they have the money for, because we saw with Albert Pujols, who was probably the best offensive player in baseball in the second half, they had that in the middle of the lineup and still struggled for runs at times.
Yep.
So that should be a wake-up call that's where the resource, in my opinion, where the resources should be put. Get a big-time bat, corner outfielder, wherever you find, and put that in the middle lineup. That's number one. The rest of it would fall into place after it. I think they have enough pitching. Another starter would be good. But yes, a catcher, but that would be my number one priority. That's all I said. Yes, I'd love all of it, but you probably can't do that. But spend big money to get a big bat.
I want Ohtani.
Oh, Ohtani. Ohtani checked so many boxes. That's why if there's anybody to pay $50 million for, it's that dude. I agree with Kat. I wish the bat would be a lefty.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think if Jordan Walker hits, I think he's potentially going to stay next year. Here's the thing. This can also roll into the Jeff Albert conversation. You know, you have to replace Albert Pujols, though, also. Like, his production.
That's what I said.
No, I think, like, with Yachty, we all love Yachty, but Yachty this past year, he was not even a league average offensive player.
He was Puerto Rico, Yachty.
But Albert Pujols, that is, you have to replace a guy who is hitting either second or fifth. Could have been hitting cleanup for it. I mean, he was really, really good. The thing is the Cardinals really struggled offensively in the playoffs. Their offense was actually pretty dang good for the whole season, which is why I know I'm changing the subject kind of. But the Jeff Albert thing to me is fascinating because on the radio last year, I thought Jeff Albert should have been fired. We all talked about this midway last year when 2.5 years in, there was really nothing to show for it. I actually think Jeff Albert did a pretty good job this past year, which is why, I mean, look at the numbers. They were third in the National League in OPS. Like, it's hard to be that much better than that. That's why that move surprised me so much. And then the reasoning that Jeff Albert apparently didn't like social media comments about him, which to me is freaking amazing. That's crazy. Am I wrong?
No. Why? I mean, there were times like when he was struggling, everyone wanted him. We'd bring him on pregame. And it was like, oh, you asked Albert, he should have a chance to answer all his critics. And he did it. And then when they were hitting well, I was like, he deserves to take a victory lap. So he came on and did it. I didn't put that much blame on him as a hitting coach. I think when you're hired as a hitting coach, you understand if the team doesn't hit, my name is on it and I'm gone. By the same token, when the team hits offensively and they have a good run, I'm not like greatest hitting coach ever. Because all these guys have their own hitting gurus, their own people. There's a lot of things that go into it. But your point about Albert, he was probably the best offensive second-half player in baseball. And even so, down the stretch, even before the postseason, they started to struggle offensively. And that's, to me, screams we need to have at least that kind of production somewhere else in the lineup, because you're right, Yachty, you're going to probably miss him handling pitchers and defensively. That's true. But offensively, he wasn't that much of a factor. You don't have Pujols, and that takes a big piece off the table. That's why their priority should be a bat. So we agree on that.
And Goldie just got really cold at the worst time possible. He's still going to win the MVP,
He did, yeah.
which shows you how amazing he was for 5 months, because he fell off the map in September and still is most likely, I think he is, going to win the MVP. My thing, and we can tie this into the Waino deal, Waino is a very good pitcher. And Waino was very good until whatever happened with his dead arm at the end, which I think also speaks to the coaching staff not being able to basically figure that out when Waino went out on Twitter and explained, hey, my landing spot was a foot off. I do think a coach should probably pick that up. But I look at the Cardinals have a lot of good starting pitchers. I'm not criticizing them when I say this, but they have a lot of 2s and 3s. They got a lot of Wainos and Michaelises and Montgomerys. Maybe they bring back Quintana. Flaherty, if he's ever healthy and can actually put it together, I do still think he can be an ace, but I'm not depending on that. And so my issue still with the Cardinals is in the playoffs next year, it's still going to be the same old Mets and Phillies and Braves, and you're going to be facing the Wheelers and the Nolas and the Scherzers and the DeGroms, and you're going to be facing the Max Frieds of the world and Spencer Strider, and I still don't think this Cardinals rotation, I think it's a really good regular season rotation. I think it's hard to march to the World Series when you don't have bona fide aces
Yeah.
or at least one ace. And unless Flaherty is healthy, which you can't depend on anymore, I still don't think the Cardinals have that.
What do you think, Sir Nathaniel? Okay.
I think the Cardinals need to get stronger up the middle. You look at what they've done at catcher the last 2 seasons, last in the majors in terms of wins above replacement, pathetic. Wilson Contreras would fix that. He's a bat. He hits 20-plus home runs a season. I think he'd be a presence in the lineup as well, and I think he'd be a formidable catcher to come in and help out the staff. And then I think if you could add a shortstop, there's a boatload of them out there. Carlos Correa opted out. He'd be magnificent, although he's going to take a lot of money. I think a Dansby Swanson would give this team a little swagger. I like that. But I think you gotta help this lineup out a little bit. It's a lineup that it has versatility, but at times it lacked pop. And the Cardinals, it's pretty overwhelming what happens when they hit 2 or more home runs in a game. They typically win. Their win-loss record when they hit 2+ home runs is absurdly high. So I think they need to focus on that. And I understand why we might be sitting here clamoring for an outfield bat, but the way that the roster is constructed right now, I think you've got more versatility where you could put a Donovan in the outfield with a Nootbaar and a Carlson, or you could have O'Neill come back and stick around and see what you have there if you're able to add 2 central pieces to the infield, which would pretty much give you, if you think about that infield, if you had Contreras, Goldie, Edman at second base, Arenado at third, and Swanson playing shortstop, sign me up. Now we're talking about a team that I think could do some real damage.
Oh, and here's why I disagree. I'm not saying you're wrong, but here's why I disagree. Because I really like Wynn, and he's close. So to get a Swanson or something, you're going to have to invest a ton of money long term. And I just look at Tommy Edman, who could be comparable to Swanson at shortstop, right? So now you're just looking for a second baseman. And the Cardinals over the years have done very well, kind of swapping out second baseman as you go. It could be Gorman. You have other options. You could put Donovan there and then take the resources and go get a huge bat for the outfield. And then I think offensively, overall, the picture's better and you have more flexibility going forward. And you can utilize all your resources. And could be wrong. Maybe Wynn isn't everything that I think he is, but I think it's worth the risk because you can put Edman at shortstop and Donovan at second, or Gorman, and then go out and get I'm not talking about a piece. I'm talking about a bona fide all-star outfield, and I think the picture is better for you going forward. So we're not really disagreeing. We're just talking about how to utilize your resources.
All right, let me get to. They got some
Am I
questions.
wrong?
Well, I like the idea of what we want, but also what do the Cardinals usually do? Like, I would agree with Nate and say shortstop. But last year they passed on the greatest shortstop market in free agent history, and I think they're going to pass again because of Wynn, because I think they really like Wynn. So I think if they sign a shortstop, and maybe they trade Paul DeYoung and just cut ties. I know it's dead money, but I could see more like whoever the Jose Iglesias is player, the 32-year-old 1-year deal for a shortstop. I think that is something the Cardinals may do, but also the way the Cardinals do business. Do you really think that they're going to block? Like, they still are high on Dylan Carlson. Even if people listening right now, even if you're not, the Cardinals are still very high on Dylan Carlson. I think they really like Lars Nootbaar. We know they love Jordan Walker, who could be a starter next year. And then Tyler O'Neill. I understand he's kind of in the Flaherty bucket of, dude, you got to stay healthy. But I promise you, if he's healthy, the Cardinals are still going to give him every opportunity. We haven't even mentioned Gorman. I think Gorman's going to be...
I did.
Okay, but I'm talking about, like, a lefty bat. It might be Gorman. Like, I'm not down on Gorman because he struggled a little bit at the end of his rookie season. Like, Nolan
22.
Gorman could easily hit 25 home runs for the Cardinals next year, easily.
That's why, I mean, we didn't mention him. It was a big part of what I was mentioning. If you have a guy who you believe is Gold Glove at shortstop, Tommy Edman, I think he would be there, or certainly comparable, who's going to give you offensive numbers, and then you have a chance to plug in a Gorman or a Donovan at second base, see which one, Donovan can play anywhere, then why would you spend all the money on a shortstop when you already have that covered and you have Wynn coming up? You have 3 outfield positions, okay? So even if you go get a big-time outfielder, then you still have room for a Carlson, a Tyler O'Neill, or a Walker. And we saw him trade Bader. I didn't see that coming either. So obviously, at some point, they're going to say, we have to cut ties with this guy if we want to move forward. So I just think if you're dealing with an outfielder, you still have more options and more places to put your guys.
Hot take. I think the Cardinals are going to be... I think the Cardinals are going to be extremely aggressive. I'm not so sure about the free agent market. We shall see. I think John Mozeliak is going to be extremely aggressive in the trade market.
Agree.
I think there's a very good chance they trade for a younger, more controllable catcher if they don't love Wilson Contreras, but they want whoever it is, whether it's the Blue Jays guys, Sean Murphy, somebody with control that they really want to be the catcher of the future. I think that's more likely. And then also, I don't know what you could get for Dakota Hudson, but he still has some value. And here's the deal with Flaherty. Now, maybe you're banking on a healthy Flaherty is, for 1 year even, is going to be more than what you could get in return. But I don't think Jack Flaherty is going to sign with the Cardinals long term, and he has 1 more year of control. So I would absolutely entertain offers for Jack Flaherty if I can get pieces back that are here for longer. I think Jack Flaherty has the best stuff on the team. I don't think he's going to be a Cardinal beyond 2023. So because of that, if I'm John Mozeliak, I absolutely shop him.
Cam, quit saying Ohtani. Every time you do, I start getting excited. They remember what team we're talking about and realize it will never happen. Sorry, homie. That's like the only name I really know. So I just throw it out there like I'm contributing to the conversation.
I don't I really don't understand this team will never go out and get a big name guy.
Yeah,
you got Goldschmidt and you got Arenado. I mean, those are those are superstars in baseball. Am I wrong?
Via trade, by the way.
Trade.
How do the Cardinals do business?
A lot of trades.
A lot of trades.
Which is smart, I think.
I agree.
Of course it is, because you're not competing against these giant teams that have the ability to just throw money and when it doesn't work out, move on.
And quite frankly, the Cardinals have had trouble identifying really strong free agent pulls. So hey, here's my thing on Mason Wynn. I get Mason Wynn's exciting, but every review you hear about the kid, he seems like he's first class in every way, and he's first to show up, he's in front, he's learning from all the Cardinals ambassadors, this, that, and the other. I mean, the guy's played 217 minor league games. He doesn't really hit for power. He strikes out a lot. In both of his minor league seasons, he's had over 100 strikeouts. He is a fast guy, but how many Swiss Army knives can you have on the team? Like, and if this guy is a career 260 hitter in the minor leagues, what are the real expectations for him to come up and be a true impact player in the big leagues? Sometimes I feel like
first of all, he's considered a really good defensive player.
Yeah.
Secondly, he's considered like a top-tier athlete with speed to burn. And, yeah, a lot of times, you hit 260 in the minors, that's not going to make you his tools make him a prospect. I'm not saying he's ready this year. What I'm saying is I really like him and think he will be. But we have Tommy Edman who can play shortstop and be close to what you're going to pay for a premium to bring in as your shortstop. And you have other guys who I think really deserve a look at second base in Donovan and Gorman. So why would you spend all that when there are other areas that I think are more important?
I would say because Arenado and Goldschmidt aren't getting any younger. They're in their 30s. And if they're going to be here, I just think solidifying it with veterans who have been winners would be a much better route to go. And I don't think you can have the season start next year where you've got Donovan, Edman, and Gorman and DeYoung all on the team. Like, two of those have got to go. Whichever two they are, I'm not sure who, but I don't think all four of those players will be wearing a Cardinals uniform.
I think at least one of them is going to go. And if you told me the Cardinals signed Dansby Swanson, I'd be like, awesome. I'd be happy. I'm just looking at where, if I were in charge, and I'm an idiot, where I'd put my dollars.
Don't say that.
Because you can't.
You're not smart enough.
You can't have everything. So I would just look at the puzzle of where I would put my money, and it would be for an outfielder, someone that will give you. I'm talking about a 30-homer, 100 RBI guy in the middle lineup.
But everybody you just mentioned has value and has significant value except for one person. That's Paul DeYoung.
Yeah.
Everybody else, again,
I'm rooting for
Nolan
him.
Gorman, I think he's going to be really, really good. Tommy Edman, I like him as a second baseman. I'm saying he's fine as a shortstop, which is why I think he's fine for 2023 as a shortstop, and then Mason Wynn is probably your starter in 2024. Brendan Donovan is the perfect Ben Zobrist type. All due respect, I know he's not returning your text, but Paul DeYoung is, at this point, a dead roster spot and dead money. And it's the final year. I understand giving him shots because you paid him. At this point, it's probably time to cut your losses.
I think they probably will move on from that. So I agree with everything. I'm not saying that I want Tommy Edman at short. I'm saying he'd be good there. Not
He's
just
fine.
He'd be good there.
But I think long term, Tommy Edman is a fantastic Gold Glove every single year second baseman.
I agree.
I think
Till
he's a
he's not.
fine. What's that?
Till he's not. I mean, there was
pretty
a ground
young.
ball to.
Wait, are you thinking Tommy Edman is suddenly not going to be good defensively at second base? That's where I'm going to disagree with you.
The fact he didn't keep that ball in the infield is not a Gold Glove play in the most pivotal play of his career.
That's fair.
I mean, you've got to keep that ball in the infield. I don't
agree.
care if it was, Joe Morgan playing second base, knock the
Great guy.
damn thing down.
On the same token, though, Nolan Arenado might be the greatest defensive third baseman in the history of baseball. Never makes an error.
Yeah.
Makes the most ridiculous plays we've ever seen on the run, and he had a bad mistake in the playoff
You're
game
right.
1-2.
They were required to put the second opt-out clause in his contract by the regs of the MLBPA. Something about the value of the contract ? Mo said that there will be no restructuring of Nolan's contract, that he accepts or declines as it is. Does this uncertainty with the coaches and their leaving have a bearing on Arenado's decision at all? Why, other than Skip, is everyone leaving? Is there more going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of? Martin's TKO from yesterday is good stuff.
Martin who? Martin Brodeur?
Martin Killer.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
Look, Mike Maddux.
Make it more obvious when you tell a joke.
Come on.
Mike Maddux has done this a long time. Okay, at some point I did think I don't think it's related to Nolan Arenado. I really don't. And I could see Jeff Albert saying, you know what? There are other teams that will hire me as a hitting coach, and I don't need to be under the microscope when the team has a bad month. I could see that too. So I don't think it's related.
That's a bad look, though.
It is a bad
If I'm
look.
him and Mo,
I know.
look, we talk about transparency in life and media and politics. Sometimes you'll just lie, though. Like, I wouldn't have said that. That doesn't help his job prospects.
What do you say again?
The fact that he's basically not liking that he was taking the blame essentially from, it sounded like social media.
Kind of sounds wimpy, to be honest with you.
I thought that was a really bad
This
look.
Cardinals team feels like the island of the misfit toys. Nothing fits together well. Wynn can play shortstop. Wynn can play center field. Carlson can play center field. No, right field. O'Neill can play center. No left, no right. Well, Edmund can play short, no second base. But Donovan can play right field, second, no wait. He can play shortstop. Gorman can play second, no third when Arenado's opts out. Who's going to play catcher? Where does Walker play? No winning team has more questions. And what about the 4 missing coaches? Jobu. I read that pretty damn good.
The 4 missing coaches.
We need better coaches. That's the reason. It's not about the players. It's about the coaches.
The bullpen coach, by the way, got moved into a different position in the organization.
How about the bullpen catcher?
I mean, are you kidding me?
He has a name, Brian.
I didn't say it. That was Jobu. They're fired up, Jimmy. They're fired up. That's all. What Cardinals are untouchables? The trade market. What Cardinals are untouchables?
Untouchables? I mean, do you want to trade Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt? I wouldn't.
I would trade Goldie.
For who?
Fernando Tatis Jr.
You like that guy?
Well,
Now that's an
I sure
interesting.
do.
That's an interesting trade.
His brain just works back there, just goes and goes. He's always got something. Really?
yeah, I would. I think you got enough options. I mean, even if Gorman could slide over and play first base, yeah.
I wouldn't.
I don't think they will.
I wouldn't.
I like where your head's at, Nate, though. Damn.
One of the things, too, that I like about Goldie, who was awful down the stretch. I mean,
It has not
after-
been a good postseason hitter at all.
He said, I mean, let's be honest, he has a ton, but he said it's my fault. You know, he took.
Oh,
he
we're
said,
aware.
I took up. It's my fault. But even when he wasn't hitting down the stretch, he'd go 1 for 4. He'd leave guys on base. He'd make 2 Gold Glove defensive plays. He'd go first to third. There's a lot of things he does that I don't think he gets credit for. Now, you look like you're angry at Goldie for me making these points.
I love it.
I'm just saying, if he weren't there at first base, you would understand the difference. If you were experimenting and giving someone else a shot at first base, and he wasn't there, you would miss him day in and day out in ways that you don't even realize now.
Nate, you're not smart enough to realize he's a good player.
It would give me another reason to complain, though, Jimmy. Like, see, why would you trade him? Now you got no defense at first.
I
You
agree.
are not smart enough.
I
to
agree
realize
with
he's a
everything
good player.
Jim said. Goldie is going to win the MVP, which is crazy because we're talking about how he fell off the table in September. That being said, even though I agree with everything Jim said, I think if you're talking about your number 3 hitter and you're discussing him going first to third, like we all know he's no, I'm being serious. He's a great base runner. He's a great baseball player. He's a great defensive first baseman. He's great picking the ball 100%. But at the end of the day, he's paid to be your number 3 hitter, and he's going to win the MVP. So it's crazy that we're having this conversation. But he did essentially disappear in September, and the 2 games of the postseason,
2 biggest games of the season,
which is a very small sample size.
So, but my point wasn't. Look, if he's not hitting, he's still. That wasn't my point. My point is, if he's not here, you're going to miss even things. You're going to miss him. That was my point. You're going to miss him in ways you don't realize now, because he does so many things. That wasn't me saying it's okay for the number 3 hitter to hit 205. I'm not saying that at all.
Is Charlie twisting your words?
Are we not? Hold on.
We're back. Nate,
Hold on.
Good night.
Are we not smart enough to understand baseball like you? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was.
You know,
Cam.
I picked that up pretty
Cam,
good.
is that what he's saying right now?
Well, he kind of said that to Nate a little bit.
Nope.
You are not smart enough to understand how good
Seth,
Goldie
what
is
do
a
you
player.
think?
The
Seth?
cat defends every suck-ass player on this awful team.
No, it's sort of like I'm not smart
So
enough
now we're
to know
calling
how
Goldie
bad
a
the
suck-ass
economy is.
player.
I'm not smart.
Now we're saying that.
Who hit that drop?
Is that what you're saying?
Who pressed
Seth?
that drop?
That was me. I was just joking.
Nate, no.
No, play that.
Seth, is that what you're calling Goldschmidt? Is that why you chose that drop?
Jim.
You need to apologize to Cardinal fans.
Paul Goldschmidt from Seth from Tactic. I'm sorry. No, he was really bad in the playoffs.
Nate,
so
do you
that
understand
shouldn't
that I
go.
was just kind of laying out my argument of how we would miss Paul Goldschmidt?
Belittled you.
I'm used to, getting big leagued by.
Up there in the press box?
No.
I told you he didn't even know
Honest
my
Joe.
name 7 years into the fact.
Yep.
Hey, buddy.
Jimmy.
Hey, sound
buddy.
guy.
Jimmy.
Hey, you.
Come
would
on.
You fetch me a water, little boy.
Go rip a dart or something like that.
Trade that stoic MFer. That's what Mitchie said.
Here's my thing. I thought back to the Arizona days, and Goldie was always a menacing player, I thought, but his teams largely did nothing. Now, you could make the point that that's more of an organizational problem, but he was a factor. He always put up great numbers, MVP caliber, but did you ever go to the desert and go, man, we can't beat this team because Paul Goldschmidt's going to change the game? And I don't know if anyone has that fear factor when it comes to Goldie.
This year, I feel like
I think
he
every
did.
team had that fear factor saved the last 3 weeks of the season.
He's going to win MVP, which is crazy. I mean, he's going to win most valuable player in the National League.
He might.
He needs to do more.
Not.
No, I think he is.
I don't know. The betting market would suggest that he's ripe for an upset. I mean, when you go the final 6 weeks of the season, this is a what have you done for me lately league, and he did jack.
There you go, homie. Oh, I got a couple here, and we'll go to break.
You want to bet?
Oh, let's go.
I think I already owe
Throw
you
that
50.
money down.
One more thing. Also, I always like to look at John Mozeliak has been here a long time. You know how he does business. You know how the DeWitts do business. If the Cardinals really like a player, and I think they really like Goldie, they don't usually trade that guy. What they actually do is they give him an extension beyond when they should. They do the opposite.
Yeah.
If they love a player, they give them an extra deal when they're 38.
This is 636. You got some good ones coming in here, man. Put a damn name down. Come on. The last text was spot on. I think he's talking about Joe Boot. Too many questions on this team with the players. Other than Goldie and Arenado, no other big stars. Waino is, but he's past his prime. And all the uncertainty with the coaches. Hummel wrote an article yesterday and stated that only coaches returning are McGee and Stubby. No mention of Pop Warner. Is that another one? I don't know, homie.
No.
Goldie faded down the stretch because Bader wasn't here to provide energy and pump him up. Think about it.
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry, guys. That's my B.
Because Cam ran him off.
Are we really worried about the pitching coach? They wanted Jeff Albert out. The fans did. And now he said,
got
you know
him.
what?
No,
Yeah.
but
we
and
got
then
him.
he's like, you know what?
Yeah, but-
I don't need this. Bye. And they're
but
like,
he
there's
sounds like
turmoil.
he sounds like a damn Timmy Van Gelder. You're right on that, homie. If the hitting coach is reading social media, he's looking for a reason to be upset. Grow a pair.
But it's what I said earlier.
I agree with you.
2.5 years
What the
in.
hell are you doing?
Last year,
The better
You
question
could've-
is, where's his burner account?
Yeah.
no, I think he has
Yeah.
he has his own
Find
account because he's always posting books that he reads. I do follow
that's
him.
cool.
But last year in the middle of the season, if they would have fired Jeff Albert, I think people would have been like, okay, yeah, they haven't been good for 2.5 years. Their offense was actually really good this year. And here's the other thing. There's a lot of good, young, exciting position players that have developed under his tutelage for the organization, like a Walker, like a Wynn, that the Cardinals are very high on. It's kind of crazy that he's leaving now after a good year.
I don't know, man.
I would say that
Social media gets to you.
there was a terrific insight by Derek Gould yesterday on Bernie's show, who had like a 40-minute conversation with Jeff Albert and sort of discussed going through the whole social media thing and why he decided to step down. But anyone who thinks that there's not going to be a lasting effect on the organization that Jeff Albert had, I think is delusional, because the whole purpose of Jeff Albert was to overhaul how the Cardinals looked at their hitting approach from top to bottom. And he had a pretty substantial effect on that, and it was being implemented finally. And I think if you can go a little deeper than getting attacked on social media, I think it was probably stressful for him to come in and have to change the thinking of long-time old-school hitting approaches and change the philosophy from the top down. So he's getting brushed back from within his own organization. He'd gotten to a place where most of that had been eradicated, and then you're still getting hit. I mean, look, I don't care who you are. It's not fun to get attacked left and right, including inside of your own organization from people who didn't want to change. But I still don't think you say it publicly on your way out.
I also think, now, maybe turmoil is too harsh of a word. So if you can find a better word for that. But this is now 2 off seasons of crazy changes within the on-field staff that nobody saw coming. Nobody saw Schilt leaving or being fired last year. And a big part of it, we all thought, there's some things we'll never know, but relationship-wise, there was something there with Jeff Albert. There was something there. Now, I'm not saying it was the major factor, but it was something. And John Mozeliak was asked about that, and he even said, yeah, he didn't say it was the number one reason, but now a year later, Albert leaves. It's just kind of odd to me.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just so you know, they also have Turner Ward as a hitting coach.
Yep.
And they have a guy who's been for a couple seasons the hitting coordinator for the minor leagues. They'll be fine with Jeff Albert leaving. They'll be fine. I don't think there'll be ripple effects for years down the road. Coaches come and go. Now, the Cardinals have had more consistency with their staff over the years. We've seen some turnover recently, but I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm saying that even without Jeff Albert, you're not going to bring in a hitting coach and there's going to be some like radical different approach to how the Cardinals have their hitting philosophy laid out in their organization. I think it's going to have I think what he's done is going to stick around even without him here.
Yeah, because that's what the organization wants, and they have people in the organization who can pick up the ball. I think Turner's a different approach.
Yeah.
And Mo said it'll probably be going forward like it is now, where there's kind of 2 hitting guys, and then players can go to the guy they feel more comfortable with.
Hey, that was a good segment right there, baby. 807. I'm right. What are you going to tie this on a bow?
On that,
yeah.
I thought that was an intriguing comment, and the whole Turner Ward versus Jeff Albert. And I like the 2 ways of thinking, but remember, it was only a handful of years ago where the team decided to move part ways with Mark Buda because his approach was so different than Albert's, and too many players, the team felt like were trending towards Buda for the psychological help and how to get in the right mindset, as opposed to the statistical and new approach in terms of the analytics that Albert provided.
Now Mo says that was a strength, and they like that, and they're probably going to go back to that.
Interesting. Hey, you're going to learn something here.
They'll get another hitting coach, and Turner Ward will stay, and they'll have 2 guys that can help hitters at the major league level, usually have their own guys anyway, and the hitters can go to whichever guy they feel more comfortable or have a connection with.
Do you feel like is there one hitting coach that can take us to the World Series?
Where are they at?
No,
Where are
just
they
one.
at?
One hitting coach, and all of a sudden, boom, Cardinals 2023 World Series champs.
Cat, do they at least give you reach-arounds? The all-knowing expert.
Wow.
I didn't say it.
Even I wouldn't read that.
I know, that's...
Even I wouldn't read that.
I didn't know what he was talking about. What's he mean?
Fake news.
What's he mean?
What's a reach around even?
I don't know. What's a reach?
Are my opinions so out there as a rights holder?
Is that what they
really
are?
So out there?
Perfect reasoning, Nate. Well done, Sharon. Oh my God, that was nice of her.
Very nice.
Thank you. All right.
Kind of odd though. 2 straight off seasons. Manager
odd.
fired. Coaching changes that are unexpected. All I'm saying is the Cardinals usually have this cohesive unit. Everybody wants to come to the Cardinals and stay with the Cardinals. I understand Skip left for a manager job. I just think the last 2 off seasons have been a little odd.
Little weird. That's all, baby. It's all good.